Hi. This is going to be about Urborg, as in Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth. It's an island on the plain of Dominaria. Urborg is home to some of Magic's scariest big bats and best silly little guys. Notable inhabitants include Fencer, Lord Windgrace, Tiny Bones, and Yargle. Crovax, which was the eventual Phyrexian leader on the planet Wrath, was also originally from Urborg, and his birth was actually a result of Urza's eugenics bloodlines project. You can see my previous video on that. Um, Urborg's timeline spans from ancient legend, such as that of the Lich. Ninevral, Nev's Disc guy, who ruled before the time of the Ice Age until modern day, when we last saw Urborg in Brothers' War during the most recent Phyrexian invasion. Urborg is a swampy area infused with black mana and home to necromancers and the undead. While it is almost always depicted with only black mana, there are also a few red cards as well, notably Urborg Volcano, which mentions volcanoes on the island, as well as the legend of the great city of Urborg, from whom the area gets its name, swallowed up by a massive volcano. And the presence of volcanoes is also supported by the card Lava Hounds. On this card, I believe the reference to cats is in the flavor text, refers to the Panther Warriors, of whom Lord Windgrace was a member and leader. Urborg has been the stage of many battles, both fought internally and as a pawn in larger wars. The sacred forest Yavimaya and Urborg are also tightly connected, and from this connection, we see the weaving of green and blue mana into Urborg's cards through Muldrotha. The sorcerer and avatar Multani transplanted part of Yavimaya to Urborg during Dominaria's Phyrexian invasion as part of the battle where Yawgmoth was finally defeated, as in the Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth. Remnants of Yavimaya still exist there to this day, which eventually those remnants spawned Muldrotha, who is an elemental spirit embodiment of both Urborg and Yavimaya. She is a fierce defender of the land which she was born. With wild growth and decaying vines, mosses, ooze, earth, and rot, she is both life and decay, a reverent example of the ecosystem of a swamp and a representation of her sultai colors. Seen here, she is also getting a reskin in Final Fantasy. So I don't know anything about Final Fantasy lore. Let me know in the comments if you guys think that that's a fitting parallel for Muldrotha. Muldrotha is also tightly tied to Yargle. They were once adversaries, and she was eventually his advocate when she persuaded her father, Multani, to bind himself to Yargle during the most recent Phyrexian invasion. Enemies to lovers. Yargle is a fan favorite. We met him first in 2018 in the Dominaria set. He was originally a member of the Cabal, which had all but taken over Urborg and much of Dominaria. Yargle, a lieutenant which had angered his Cabal superiors, was turned into a maggot, which was then eaten by a swamp frog. And this series of events results in Yargle, as the power of the demon lieutenant coursed through the frog, transforming him. Yargle is the embodiment of insatiable hunger, eating whatever is in front of him. He was once used to defend the Cabal stronghold on Urborg. He battled the Weatherlight and Spirit Panther warriors in the battle that aimed to kill Belzenok, the demon ruler of the Cabal. When Muldrotha was called on to aid during this battle, she managed to pull Yargle away from the battle back into the swamp. We can assume after this, there's not really any discussion of Yargle until later. So, putting the pieces together, we can assume he did not return to the Cabal, but instead stayed with Muldrotha in the swamps of Urborg and formed a friendship with her. And this is evidenced by the card Yargle and Multani, which describes Muldrotha as having vouched to her father on Yargle's behalf. We learn of this unlikely team-up with Multani from the legendary team-up series from March of the Machines, which is also where we got Talia and the Gitrog monster card. During the last Phyrexian invasion, Yargle's insatiable appetite was put to use. He ate up Phyrexians, while Multani's magic gave him resistance to the glistening oil. This battle also saw the spirit of one of Urborg's greatest champions rising again in her defense. Lord Windgrace, the Panther Warrior, once Lord of Urborg, remained behind long after his death to defend his home. So I'm going to go off on a little tangent here, but while Lord Windgrace is presently deceased, the fact that his spirit is still protecting Urborg is crazy. So he is referenced as having remembered a time before Urza's Silex. So when the Silex exploded, Urborg was transformed from a forest into the submerged swamp that it is today. And a side note, the wiki says that that means that he's older than Urza, but I disagree with that because the Silex blast happened in 63 AR and Urza was born in 0 AR. And that leaves 63 years of time in which Windgrace could have been born and remembered Urborg as a forest. But um, that's like picking hairs. He's at least very close in age to Urza, and we are now in the 4500s AR at least, which means that he has been protecting his home for the last 4.5 millennia in both life and in death, which he is best boy. Windgrace has a deep hatred for artifice, which partially because of the Silex blast. That ruined his home, and then also from his time under Urza as one of the 9 Titans that protected Dominaria. Like most people that surrounded Urza, he saw artifacts in Urza's creations as destructive and deadly and grew to hate them. During the Time Spirals arc, the Phyrexian Plane of Wrath was overlaid with Dominaria and was merging with the planes were merging together. The stronghold of Wrath would have been overlaid exactly where Urborg is, and it was a key point to stop the war and stop the Phyrexian. I think that's also an interesting parallel as later it's the Cabal stronghold. So in both wars, it was a really important physical location. And to prevent this from happening, Windgrace sacrificed himself for his homeland. He used his own essence to destroy the rift, which then closed Wrath and the Phyrexians out. After his death, the Panther folk continued to fight on in his legacy, especially during the Cabal occupation. They were known for destroying Cabal artifacts. However, at the time of the most recent Phyrexian invasion, when we go to Urborg again, it's mentioned that only a few of the Panther folk still survive. Nonetheless, the spirit of Lord Windgrace still rose up in that fight against the Phyrexian in spirit form as an eternal guardian of the land in his home. So I also am going to link a story that I read from Brothers War during my research. The opening paragraph is about Urza and Teferi. And if you've seen my other videos, or this one, you know that I hate Urza so much. And while I haven't discussed it yet, I also have a deep disdain for Teferi. And this paragraph is about them, and it still made me like choke up. I think one of the things that absolutely enthralls me about the Magic story is just how palpable the nostalgia is in even mundane things. Like we have characters and ongoing storylines that are literally millennia old, and we get to see the weight that comes with those stories and the generational trauma and the scars that exist across the eons in the fabric of these stories when they are well written. And I think that's just something to check out if you want more information. It doesn't super go into Urborg, but it's a good read. Thank you, and hope everybody has a good day.